talking about math. Then I will get into the AI part and talk about vector, order, even, and then I will go for the iteration process, and then talk about wall or leg, standard deviation, and a little bit about AI. Introduction. As you can see here, we've been working on an AI snake, and we have many motors. We have a large motor and medium motor that I will talk about later. How math can change the world. Math always plays an important role, whether it's in STEM, whether it comes to making Lego, coding, etc. And math is also very important with the physical world. Analyze. Before we start testing or coding, we will always analyze by checking our motors and sensors. As you can see here, we have a large motor and a medium motor. We have an infrared sensor as like the eyes of the snake, and an input is like a sensor and output is like a motor. And this is the standard deviation code. AI, artificial intelligence. For a human, the human would just see a boy or Samuel with black hair, a brown shirt, and a black pants. However, AI would see 80% of a boy, maybe 20% of a girl. Then decide either if it's a girl or boy. Thank you.